What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how to change up your tempo on your routes and how to change up a tempo off the line of scrimmage with the release. So we're going to talk about how this is one of the best ways to get separation after you've beat a DB on maybe a faster release. You've come up the line full speed, and he has a chance to feel your speed, something you can use later in the game. And guys, if you're a receiver and you want to get faster, you want to be more explosive, check out that link in the description that says Speed Workout Plan. It's a full 28-day workout plan to get you guys to be faster, more explosive athlete. Hope we get you guys on that soon. Let's get started. So, main thing we're going to talk about here is how when you get off the line of scrimmage and you're running stride for stride with this guy, how you could change up the tempo with either like this skip or this little hesitation. So let's watch it full speed. So he closes the gap, 1-2, changes up the tempo, kicks up into second gear, then just snaps it right off, right? So this is a very technically sound route. So when we come off the line here, we want to try to come off and try to freeze this DB, right? We want to freeze him and then leave him. So we want to make sure that I get him maybe on his heels a little bit, at least lean into the inside, not so much on his heels, but a little flat-footed, right? So I could just take this outside release. Now, this outside release is fine. I'm not really worried about breaking his ankles out the line of scrimmage. I just want to get to the outside, and I want him to feel my speed, right? And you do this a couple times, and let's say you beat a DB on a fade. Let's say you have like MOR, must outside release, and you just got to run this guy off, or your job is to take the guy out of the play. He should be feeling your speed, right? Especially when it's man coverage, because if he gets used to your speed and he gets used to how fast you are, he's going to start to try to get a little creative, and he's going to be, I can match his speed. I know when he's going to break. I kind of got this figured out. And that's when you change up the tempo on your routes, right? So you see what he does here is he gives him this little skip, and then he takes off into second gear, right? All that little skip serves to do is sells vertical just a little bit more, right? We skip, we get him to stop his feet, make him think like we're okay, maybe we're just going to break it off, run a curl, run a stop, run whatever. But then we burst up here, and we kick up into second gear, so that gets an overreaction out of him, right? You change up the speed, he stops his feet, then you burst up field, and this is a common thing that you guys can do on a fade, right? Let's say you got to run an actual fade. Let's say you're just running this thing over the top. You close the gap, give him a 1-2, and then you kind of change up the tempo, then just beat him over the top. Even when you're not getting the ball, that's how it sets up other routes, right? You guys got to, even if the play's not for you, you still got to set this DB up, right? So we get him to overcommit with his hips, and I know when I'm going to snap this thing off. And it's very important that you're able to change direction on a dime when you change the tempo on the stem of your route, right? I come off, give him a 1-2, take the outside release, a little high step, kick up into second gear. That gets him to overreact, but if I'm slow with my hips, you see it all the time. Guys will lean back, they'll kind of cruise into the break, and then this DB's all over it because he's able to drop his hips. But when we were able to drop my hips on a dime, my hips are violent. I'm able to change direction while I'm going full speed, and how you do that is by dropping your hips as violent as possible. That will get you out of this break quick, number one, but also not give this DB a lot of time to react to this ball, right? And sometimes he will be able, sometimes he'll be in a better position than most, but this is a great technique to use to get that overreaction out of a DB, feel your speed, then snap this thing off, and make sure, especially when I'm here, I'm accelerating out of this break, widening the gap between this DB because I took care of him with my stem, and I took care of him with my move at the top of the route. This is a great route. Let's watch it again one more time. So close the gap, 1-2, burst up, little high step, kick up into second gear, snap it off, DB's right flying by you. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about this slide release here, okay? So now I want to make this clear that this DB is not an currently an NFL DB, right? I think he's either a college or maybe even a high school player, right? But I think that this is a great example of how you change up the tempo with like a slide release, okay? When you give him a slide off the line of scrimmage and you break him to the outside, this is a great opportunity for you guys to learn how a tempo with the slide can really get you some separation, especially when it's a longer developing play, right? Quarterback understands sometimes that when you're out there on the outside, when he catches this ball and he throws, that you got to get off press. You got to be able to beat press. So when you come off the line of scrimmage and you work this slide release, what we want to do here is we want to change up the tempo, right? Let's watch it full speed. So he comes off here, slides, gives him this jab to the outside, and then we go from 0 to 100, right? So now I think regardless of the DB, when you slide and you're in this range, right? You see how he's in a range where this DB has to make a decision. He can either sit with him and try to work with him and stop his feet, which he does, right? And he needs to be a little bit more disciplined and watch his hips, not look at his eyes, right? Because when you're looking at his eyes and you throw your head and shoulder fake there, that gets this DB to open up the gate, right? So that's something that a DB should not do, should not be looking at those eyes and should not be looking at his upper half. He should be watching his hips. But even so, he's still throwing his hips on the move, so that's tough to do. But when we change up this tempo, he tries to match my tempo. And when I get his feet to stop, that's when I could throw my head and shoulders there and I could get him to overreact and break to the inside, right? So now Another thing as well is when you slide here, fellas, and when you decide to make this move, it's very important that when I do decide to make this cut, it's quick, right? It's just a very sudden cut and then we get out of it. Because when you go to change speeds, you got to be able to react on a dime. I shuffle, I hesitate, pop, I'm out of this thing. I just stick and then I get out of there and I cut right back underneath it. This is a great route here by Diggs. Let's watch this thing full speed one more time. So he slides, jab, get underneath. Great job changing the tempo to get this DB to try to match him, to get him to slow down. Okay, so that's a great job by Diggs there. So let's talk about this this next release. So this is kind of like almost that squirt release. So what a squirt release is when you got a DB who's inside leverage and you kind of attack his leverage with your stem off the line of scrimmage and you change up the tempo in this scenario, right? You could attack his leverage and be fast, do these quick little rocket steps, give him a 1-2, then break back to the outside. He's going to be running a goal line fade here. So let's watch it full speed. So he comes off, kind of slow plays it, gives him a jab, gets him to stop those feet especially when I close the gap, right? So now when this DB's inside leverage, you talk about this all the time, you want to attack his leverage because the worst thing that could happen is that the worst case scenario for us is that he just sits there. Right, and he just sits there, and we don't get to move him off that platform. Usually if we attack leverage on a guy, he might keep his leverage to the inside, but look at all the space that we just created for myself, right? So if he just sits there, fine by me. I get his feet to stop, especially when I change up the tempo here, and you see how he kind of gives this little stutter, then I give him a 1-2. And if I could get his feet to stop, and I could get his feet to be flat, I can burst off of my cut because I know where I'm going, and I could burst right back up to the corner of this end zone, right? So when we come off the line of scrimmage, and we want to change up the tempo, like I got maybe a squirt release, you could do a couple different things, right? And that's how it all varies. Like maybe in the beginning of the game, even when you're not getting the ball, I've said it before, I'll say it again, even when you're not getting the ball, maybe you attack his leverage, you attack his midline, and you give him these quick rocket steps, then you give him a 1-2, and then you burst back to the outside, right? You quicken it up. It's fast. You try to get a reaction out of him. Then maybe one time you just go straight at him. You run straight at him, and it's just a total of 4 steps. You go left, right, and you give him a jab to the inside, and then you burst up out. Now he thinks he's got your tempo. He thinks he's got your speed down. Now what do you got to do? You want to close the gap and you hesitate on him. You slow everything down and that gets him thinking, right? Because he thinks he's matched your tempo. He thinks he knows the moves that you could do, and you got 3 different moves with the same timing to run the same exact route, right? So I come off now and I hesitate. I slow play him a little bit. I try to get him to stop his feet. I try to get him to think. Then I give him that same 1-2. He hasn't seen it before. I sell this thing with my upper half. I get him to stop his feet to the inside like he does here, right? Hesitate, 1-2. And you give him this head and shoulder fake to the inside. Get him to stop his feet. Get him to think inside route like you're running a slant, and then bam, I come over the top. Another way this could set up, and I want to talk about this because this is something not a lot of people don't understand. Let's say you got to run a slant. So let's say I attack his leverage, and then I give him a right-left, and you cut off that left foot and you go to the inside, right? And you get him to try to lean to the outside here. Now you come back one time, you hesitate, and then you hit him with the left-right, but you sell with your upper half like he does right here. That gets him thinking slant. I've seen this before. I've seen this exact same release. I've seen this exact same slow play to get me sitting to the inside, and then here we create all this space for myself. So that's a couple different ways you can use this to set up off the line of scrimmage. Let's watch it full speed one more time. So he's coming off here, hesitate, 1-2, burst back to the outside. Great route. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys have any questions, please leave those in the comments. If you're a receiver and you want to get faster, you want to be a more explosive athlete, check out that link in the description that says Speed Workout Plan. I'll see you guys next time.